On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Q has been a busy bird lately. We got some more great Q posts that we're going to be talking about today. And I just saw this picture in the process of researching some of this, and I thought it was super cool. If your path demands you to walk through hell, walk like you own the place. That is so very true. So a lot of things are going on in the world right now. I wanted to point out two very interesting stories. I mean, it's just, again, I came up through the process of researching the Q posts that popped up. But this was a quiz submission. It's a post-lecture quiz. It's in the beginning, an overview, 1960, yada, yada. This was done September 1st, 2020. This was apparently at Vanderbilt. I'm assuming it's the college. The question, you probably can't see it. It's really small. It's right here. Question 1. Was the Constitution designed to perpetuate white supremacy and protect the institution of slavery? I think every one of us would say the answer is false. No. The answer is true. Yeah, this guy goes into great length to explain since they didn't address slavery when the Constitution was created, it was obviously intended to perpetuate slavery. Now, he kind of backpedals a little from it, but long story short, this individual basically says, yeah, Constitution was done for that reason. I don't believe that was true. I think where we were historically and across the world and the way slavery was viewed, although very shameful, certainly was not quite how the people saw it. And as he states in the very bottom, the Constitution was made in such a fashion to allow general and gradual change, and it's done a very, very good job of that. So without a doubt, this Constitution's been an amazing legal document, and we did actually manage to change slavery. That happened with, guess what? A GOP, the first president, I think he was the Whig at the time, but it was the government of the people, and it was Abraham Lincoln. So again, you've had all your Democrat sides that have been trying to promote slavery, keep slavery. They were all the Southern plantation owners, were all the Democrats. You guys were the ones that voted negative on everything as far as giving slaves their rights. So again, this whole 1619 thing that they keep trying to push is a bunch of crud. One other thing that jumped out at me that I thought was a bit ironic, Chicago Mayor Lightfoot joins liberal LA leaders and limits Halloween trick-or-treating this year. Now, we just opened back up. Yesterday was my first day being able to go back to the gym again. They've opened up twice now. I'm hoping it lasts longer than 2 weeks this time. We'll see. But again, we're slowly opening up everything. But no, something that is still over a month and a half away, they're deciding now, let's go ahead and cancel that. Let's take away, quite possibly, children's second favorite holiday. I'm assuming Christmas probably comes before it. So again, very interesting that these D leaders and these D leaders are taking away all the fun and all the rights that kids can enjoy. Now let's get into the Q posts. These are pretty awesome. And frankly, this picture is awesome. That's why I had to choose it for the thumbnail. But post 4639. Oh, happy holidays. Oh, look at our lovely state burning in the background. It truly is pretty crazy. So what happens when California is in serious debt and lost priority aid from the federal government due to sanctuary status illegal? What happens when California is in serious debt and all attempts to obtain a bailout from Pelosi inserted and pushed, right? Pelosi's been trying to get money for New York and California and a few other states that are just blowing it. And that failed. So what happens when she can't get some of that COVID-19 money and the aid package? What happens when that all fails? What happens when California is in serious debt and decides to implement resident overreach by extending statewide shutdowns, such as incurring massive economic problems? Again, they're slowly opening back up, I think, because they realize they're not getting any federal money. So either A, you need to open back up, or B, you're going down. And so it's mostly going down, or maybe they're trying to find a way to get some of those federal dollars. What are the average number of fires per year in California in the last, basically 20 years? I've got those numbers. What are the average numbers of fires from 2018, 2019, 2020? Now, outside of standard deviation, now they're specifically calling out the months. It's a little trickier, but that is fire season. So we're going to have to assume that's contained within the data I've got. What are the average numbers of fires? Again, recently, and I think you'll find the information, let's go ahead and jump to it now. The information is it this? Yeah. So average number of fires. What's interesting about this, let's go back to 1987. We got 13,000, 13,000, 10,000, 10,000, 9,000, 12, 8, 10, 8, 10, 9, 7, 11, right? Like they're pretty consistent. Like, so, at first when I was going to open this up, I was expecting to see this giant change. Like down here in 2016, I was expecting to see it like 15,000 or 20,000. It's not. But what is interesting is it seems that the acreage, the size of the fires, seems like they've kind of gotten bigger. Now, again, they're consistent, but they seem like they're on the heavier side, especially lately. The past 3 years, 2018, we had almost 2 million acres burned. 2017, 1.5 million acres burned. And then, 670,000 acres, 880,000 acres. Those are kind of reasonable. So I don't know, maybe it's the size, but I'm not quite seeing the numbers jibe quite like it seems that they're saying. But that being said, this is a convenient way for California to get all sorts of funding. Now, the question, outside of standard deviation, again, states' causes of the fires, well, they're saying heat. We've also had CalPERS, the electricity company out here, has gotten blamed, and also there's a lawsuit against them, and I believe they were found criminally charged for one of the last fires, I don't know, like 3 years ago or something like that. Literally killed people, and they've been blamed for it, and somehow in trouble. I don't know what happens when a company kills somebody. So outside average temperatures of California per year in the last 20 years, it's been weird lately. And I'm going to say I live here. So our weather's been very strange. We had a very wet year last year, which was super weird. And then outside of that, we had abnormally hot summers and dry for years, like 3 years. Now, I think there was some use of HARP or something to help affect our weather. That sounds crazy. I don't know. That's just a guess. Because it was strange to have these high pressure systems. You also see really weird clouds high up sometimes. That all being said as well. Outside the standard deviation, again, power lines are the source. They typically blame those, which, okay. Power lines are usually pretty taut. They're also from wind. They're not supposed to be able to arc. So there's a lot of things that kind of seem questionable there, but sparks can happen. It happens all the time. Campsites, there was supposedly one of these fires was started from a coming out party, which seemed oddly political in its own right. Like it's a coming out party, so has an LGBTQ kind of component to it, and then blaming them for starting the fire. Now, apparently it did. They had some fireworks show, and so these guys are probably going to get stuck having to pay a bunch. But what has changed over these last number of years? Well, the budgets, the fact that Trump's in charge, and about 3 years ago, California started really being put under a microscope and not getting all those sweet federal dollars. So what California programs regarding fire prevention, forest brush have been severely cut? So again, they're probably cutting back on all the brush cleaning that's supposed to happen in the forests and all these things. Now, again, forests have burned throughout centuries. There was a story I saw recently how they were afraid the redwoods were going to get burnt down. They survived. They did. And they've been through numerous fires. Fires are very normal in forests. Civilization being a part of that, not as normal. And so we kind of tend to be a bit of a problem in that. But anyway, what other cuts have been done to impact fire prevention? Well, it's funny is they share this link of what other things have been cut. When you hit the link, you get a 404. Yeah, things been deleted. But when you go to the way back machine, hey, look at that. CPF president praises Governor Newsom's wildfire emergency announcement. With California back-to-back unprecedented wildfires, he's declared an emergency. So all this, we commend the governor, as one of these fires would have been. That is the proper story, I guess. So anyways, it's, wasn't that too much of an exciting story. But yeah, Governor Newsom's talking about how he's recognized the magnitude of the challenge, being willing to make difficult decisions, to trust the governor to approach our fuel and forest management challenges with due diligence and respect for California's precious resources. So again, it's talk about putting more money back into the protection of our forests. So apparently that's kind of fallen by the wayside. So how do you get federal money if you can't get it any other way? I'm not saying for sure that they're causing these fires, but I've got some evidence to suggest that could be part of it for sure. We'll see. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, when you can declare a state of emergency like Gavin Newsom did, then you can request billions of dollars in assistance. Welcome to California and how we govern here. And by the way, how other states that fall under this same umbrella of governance, that's how you're also going to be governing your world. Post 4640, referencing an earlier post, General Mattis Kelly McMaster to hold town hall with Anderson Cooper in September. Really? Okay, sure. And that was back in June. And then we've got this Arthur Schwartz status, yada, yada, full MSD, DNC Blitzkrieg, known and ready. October surprise being prepped and warm now. A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen in October. Red October's been talked about, but October's surprise. I mean, October is always the crazy time anyway. And with the elections coming, all stops will come out in October. So all assets will be out. We will see more events. We will see more violence, most likely. And again, it's just one of those things where Q keeps asking us to trust humanity. And I believe it. There's a lot of us that are good people that are not going to go out and cause problems. There are some of us that are bad. And the bad people kind of need to separate the wheat from the chaff. And I think we need to figure out ways to hold our lines and not necessarily aggravate situations, but certainly not let them cross into our neighborhoods. Now, what's interesting change of events they've talked about here, and this is kind of an interesting slide. So the way this kind of all started to play out, we had weekly false attacks and whistleblowers false. So the false attacks were all the press stories that were coming out saying Trump was this, Trump kicked a baby, all these different crazy stories, right? So a lot of false attacks were coming that way. We were having whistleblowers coming out, Stormy Daniels, and right, just any number of people that can come out and say they saw Trump pee on a bed in a hotel in Russia, whatever, right? Just crazy stories were coming out. Then, first, Vindman coordinated with Adam Schiff, the whistleblowers, right? And false narrative insert Ukraine. So the whole Biden deflect tried to get that away. They tried to say it's all Russia and tried to deflect away from Ukraine. They wouldn't let anyone talk about Ukraine, wouldn't let anybody subpoena anybody about Ukraine, trying to protect Biden and all the crazy stuff that's been going on over there. And so again, returning all the news, is that legal? Obviously not. Adam Schiff backroom prepped the second whistleblower. Then Adam Schiff backroom prepped the third whistleblower, which was the national secretary, right? And that was when things really started to kind of get interesting. And then they also brought in some more evidence. I think that's when they declassified the phone transcripts for the perfect call, which I'm tired of that phraseology, but whatever. Now, what's very interesting is this line here and the one below it. Pentagon SR 1 through 4 backroom prep dry run campaign refusal. So what this is saying is senior staff, I keep getting this wrong. So senior at the Pentagon and 2 joint chiefs. So the JCS is 2, so that's 2 joint chiefs and 4 senior Pentagon officials. So there's apparently a couple rogue officials that are running around still, and I'm quite sure we know who they are. They ran a dry run campaign about this whole Trump refusing to get out of office thing, and they keep trying to run through these different scenarios. So refusal to concede narrative got started. Again, this is the direction they wanted to go. They want to kind of find a way through the voting by mail. So then they delay the actual understanding of who won. And by doing that, they can actually cause a situation, at least in their mind, where President Trump's no longer technically in charge because we don't know who's in charge. The leadership would likely fall to Nancy Pelosi. And Trump at that point for sure is probably going to refuse to get out of office. I mean, probably will, if this scenario plays out. Now, all the stuff that they've done, all the scenarios that they've run on the computer simulations and all that are kind of interesting how they're playing out. But so they started the narrative. They were like, yeah, let's go this path. So again, that whole refusal to concede. Then they're going to challenge legally the battleground states. Now, the battleground states, the biggest electoral college states. We got California for sure. That's as blue gets. You got Texas is next, by the way, and they're pretty red. Parts of it are purple, maybe Austin, but outside of that, very red. But then you get into Florida, which should go Republican, but that's a battleground state for sure. You've got New York and Pennsylvania up over here, and then Chicago, Illinois, right? Illinois. So these are kind of the key big states that are going to be the fights that they're going to be going after, and that they're going to try to cause some issues. Legal issues. They're going to try to get more vote by mail in these locations, right? As a means of doing something about it. Now, by the way, all of us, the best way we can defend against this is to actually vote in person. If you can vote in person, you take away this. If enough people vote in person, it's going to make their plans very difficult because voting in person has been secured for sure. And again, I'm still waiting for that blockchain thing to come out. I see that maybe happening in a month. That's my opinion. Like right around October, I see that coming out as a means, especially I think they're waiting to see if they ramp up the COVID thing. I'm expecting another wave of that to come through here in the next couple weeks. I think towards the end of September, we get into higher numbers of COVID. We go back to another lockdown. That lockdown's meant to cause people to vote by mail. And that's when I think they're going to come out with the blockchain news. It's like, all right, all this confusion, all this problem. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it easy for you all to vote, make it legal, make it official, make it quick. You don't have to go anywhere and risk your lives. You can do it on your computer. And I think that's what's going to happen. So a lot of these things are happening. Everything is at stake. Win by any means necessary. They have to get power back. If they don't get power back in this election, they are done. Done. This very well could be the last election where we see Democrat as an actual party. I think the Democrats are going to end up creating a new party, and this crazy radical left is going to take over the Democrat Party, but I don't think normal Democrats are going to be in that party anymore. They may still not want to be Republicans, and I won't blame them, but I'm seeing not a third party, but a replacement of the Democrat Party starting, because the Democrats have horrible history, and really, why try to change the history when you should just change the party? And so come up with a new party, call it the new Democrat Party, whatever. So we'll see how that all plays out. But again, plan accordingly, folks. November's going to be crazy. Right after the election, super crazy. And leading up to the election, insane amounts of crazy. Be prepared, have supplies, have food, have perishables. Basically, like if you're a Californian, have your earthquake kit fully stocked and ready to go. You're going to need it. It's going to be very important that you have these things put aside and ready to go. One thing that's interesting is a cool little slide that I found too as well. President Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he has done more trying to create peace between nations than most other Peace Prize nominees, said Christian Tybring-Gjedde of Norwegian Parliament. Blah, blah, blah. But Trump has broken a 39-year-old streak of American presidents either starting a war or bringing the United States into an international armed conflict. Trump's the first president in 39 years to not do this yet. I mean, he's almost through his first term, but so far he's brought troops home. So far, he cares more about us than anybody ever else has, and he cares more about this country and bringing our people back and stop fighting all these wars on all this foreign land. He's doing an amazing job. Good job, Mr. Trump. Post 4641. The swamp runs deep, and it does. And I think we've come a long way in removing a lot of these people, but there's still some swamp creatures floating around. It's craziness, right? So sometimes you cannot tell people the truth. You must show them. When you read the boards, the Q boards, the one thing you see is a lot of frustration. Why don't you just arrest people? Why don't you stop this? Why, if you can talk about it and you know what's happening, why don't you stop it? Because you can't. If you just arrested Hillary Clinton, do you think, one, that would stick? Two, all of Hillary's supporters would come out in arms, freak out. The only way that you could do that would be to show people what she's actually done wrong and essentially be able to prove it. And that's just an example. But if you think of all the swamp creatures, that's how it works. You need people to see it with their own eyes. Essentially, we need people on the left to see what's happening. Us on the right, kind of already awake, already see it, already against it, whatever. We need more people on the left to wake up to this crazy coffee, the smell of napalm in the morning. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We don't need to get used to that smell. You shouldn't be waking up and going, wow, it smells like we had another riot last night. That's not how things would be. Or in my case, wow, the skies are orange again because of all the fires. So we've got to show people. Only then, at the precipice, will people find the will to change, to finally participate in what's going on. We, the people, have been betrayed for a very long time. Will you stand for God and country, for freedom, for humanity? Because where we go one, we go all. This is the United States of America. Maybe not as heavily united right now as we should be. Certainly have a president that's trying to unite, and then we've got a mainstream deep state media that's desperately trying to keep us as divided and segmented as possible. Divided, we are weak. United, we are incredibly strong. And right now, there is a huge silent majority, and it's growing every single day. Where we go one, we go all. Post 4642, again, that wonderful picture of the United States. Hello, sir, USA, USA, USA. Where we go one, we go strong, or go all. And the strongest weapon in the United States is the patriotic American. And I would go even a hair further than that and say the strongest weapon in the United States is a group of patriotic men and women. Very, very powerful. And these numbers are growing, and they're growing rapidly. 4643. Hello, Carly. Thank you and God bless. Keep charging. Midnight Rider. Great song, by the way. So Carly is who he's talking about here, and I think this is particularly the one, and they call him Joe Hayden, which I think is super funny, right? He's Hayden Biden. That is super awesome. But Joe Hayden asked about QAnon and goes on some bizarre rant about a plane. Huh? This is the guy that they want to put into office, and we got to listen to this because it's a typical Biden moment.
Related topic. What would you say to the supporters of the QAnon, the people who believe in that conspiracy, what they think is true about America, that there's sex trafficking and a conspiracy against President Trump? And what would you say to President Trump for not rejecting that conspiracy and the people who believe in it?
I've been a big supporter of mental health. I'd recommend that people who believe it maybe should take advantage while it still exists in the Affordable Care Act. It's bizarre. Totally bizarre. And now, have you guys found that plane load of people in uniforms and weapons and flying around? I mean, you know, have you found them yet? Is anybody even from, and by the way, I respect conservative and liberal points of view in the press. Anybody found that plane? What in God's name are we doing? Look at how it makes us look around the world. It's mortifying. It's embarrassing, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. If the president doesn't know better, which he has to know better, then my Lord, we're in much more trouble than I ever thought we were. It's bizarre. And, you know, this is a case where, you know, I've been surprised, pleased but surprised, with folks I've had political arguments with, like the former governor of Michigan, coming out and endorsing me. All the Republicans are endorsing me. They're rich where I am. That this can't.
Related topic.
Now, one thing that's really interesting about this, I mean, aside from the fact that his answer was strange. Now, the plane he was talking about, I'm quite sure, was the plane that there's been comments about. There was some Antifa thugs on an airplane that were flying in. It seems like they were organized. They were literally being flown in. And that was a story that was being circulated around. So I think that's what he's referencing. But his ability to string together thoughts obviously is not very good. He's like a sewing machine, tack, 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 and he just jumps between things and does not know what the heck he's talking about. The other thing that is very interesting, Trump did it, but he did it in a very cool way. And Biden did it too. The way they're talking about Q is very interesting. They're not just straight out hammering and slamming and just insulting. The media is through their questions. Now, this guy actually asked a somewhat better question than the other ones I've heard, the one that was asked of Trump. At least this guy's talking about people moving people across state lines, people trafficking, and that there's a conspiracy against the president. Yeah, I'd say a lot of Q people believe that. There's definitely trafficking happening. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that. And for any of you or any of us that have been following any of this stuff for any length of time, yeah, there's a definite evidence. There's all sorts of evidence to suggest they've been trying to remove a duly elected president since before he was even in office. It doesn't look good no matter how you slice and dice it. That's not QAnon. That's just paying attention to facts. QAnon is just a group of people that kind of have some similar views and are basically talking about a lot of the injustices that are happening right now and the fact that Trump seems to be fighting for us. But that being said, the Democrat Party leader is not going to make it. I don't know what's up with this guy. He's getting worse. And when he's doing these press conferences, he's as geeked up as he can be, right? I'm sure they're not handing him a rock star. I'm sure it's in pill form. But the man is geeked up as he's going to be. And that's as good as you get because it's only going to go down from there. And as he starts to get used to these pharmaceuticals that they're giving him, I'm guessing, once he gets used to those, then they have to give him more and more. And that man's heart's going to explode out of his chest. That's probably what's going to happen on stage. It'll be like aliens. It'll be awesome. Anywho. 4644, we've got a couple other posts here that are really cool. Highly coordinated, funded domestic terrorism. And that's truly what's going on. This is the evidence I was talking about earlier. The feds are involved. We have U.S. rights, surveillance. Was it counter surveillance? Probably. Democrat-controlled areas. So all the places where the Dems are in charge, some actions have been done. One, Trump deputized the Oregon State Police Department, the troopers. I don't know if he's done that with Washington yet. I haven't been following up, but one of the stories we're going to see is a Washington state trooper. And so we'll see how that plays out. But media blackout's coming, and truly is going to, and election gaming. They are truly trying to figure out how to game the system. The vote tallying's one thing. They're with all the fires. I mean, this is crazy. The red skies, man, it's not that bad here. Here it's just orange. This is crazy in this picture. But the last 24 hours in Oregon have been unreal. Again, a state, Portland, burning for 104 days now, 105 days, forget which, I'm losing count. They need money badly. They've been defunded just like California. Again, they've shut down their state. There's a lot of businesses that are now destroyed. So they're in a whole big problem, and their fires are out of control as well. I think, is this the one? Yeah, this is just showing all the different fires. Eugene, we have Bend, there's fires everywhere. And so not looking good at all. And again, it's really sad. And these people are having to deal with this. Now, what's interesting here is this trooper, state trooper up in Washington, which usually state troopers are not nice. So if you're a state trooper up in Seattle, I've met a couple of you guys just as neighbors. You were a neighbor to my brother, and you were just not a very nice guy. But anyway, some of you are. Anyway, joint team effort. So WSP, Fife PD and Puyallup, PD, and it's Puyallup. Anyway, it's so hard to say. It's those Native American words up there. They're arrested a 36-year-old Puyallup resident. He was caught in the median, in the median on SRI 167, setting a fire, currently on his way to jail. Now, the thing I'm wondering about is why the median? Like, that's a stupid place to start a fire unless you're trying to keep a fire from being able to jump across a road. I mean, maybe he's hoping it would have spread, but you started on one side or the other, and probably the side where the wind's going to continue to blow it. Not that I'm trying to give people tips on how to do this, but anyway, thank God he was an idiot, Darwin Award or something, but started a fire in the middle of the road. They were able to quickly put it out, and this guy is now in jail. And I'm sure he's going to be talking about any potential people that were suggesting he do this. So no more Q posts going on. I wanted to get this one out early, and we'll see if any more stuff comes through. I might even do a second video today, but I wanted to get this one out, get you guys thinking about Q and what's really going on, and get you prepared. Remember, guys, we got to stay together. Even the crazy people on the left, some of these guys are going to wake up. Extend that olive branch when they're ready. Otherwise, keep your line. Don't let them cross. That's how we've got to hold our ground. But that's what we need to do, folks. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.